Good morning, or depending on when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told out of Voice of Radio, so today we need to take a little bit of a look at something that's happening in some shops, which is not particularly good. Now, it does seem to be something that's happening more in Japanese shops than it is over here, but to be perfectly clear, it is the kind of thing that could happen over here as well. It's a little bit of a scam, and by a little bit of a scam, I mean it's definitely a scam. So I figure we need to talk about this, firstly to let you guys know about it, and secondly, because it is a little bit of an interesting story. And I need to give a massive shout out here to the lovely Antoine Boulet. I know, not the first time that we've thanked Antoine in a video by a long shot, but essentially, Antoine was the person who really kind of put this into words earlier today and made me realise I need to make a video about it. I've been seeing this thing going on for a little while, but Antoine really did make it nice and easy, so you know what? It's time to have a chat. And it all starts with a picture like this. Now, this is Pokemon Breeder. Very delighted to say that I can read that. I can read the katakana on top. Yay, etc. The thing is that they're buying it for 30,000 yen, and that's if it's mint, or 24,000 yen if it's not mint. And that seems a little bit high. So what we do is we head on over, get a bit of a conversion rate going on, and we find out that 30,000 yen, this is what they're paying for a mint version, that converts over to $225. Or £188 if you're in Britain like I am. $225 for Pokemon Breeder. This isn't some kind of obscure promo. Now, people who don't know much about the game might look at a card like Masked Royal and go, hang on a second, Wassy, it's Masked Royal, it's not exactly the most popular of characters around, the card isn't particularly playable, surely the full art of that is not worth very much at all. And then you find out that actually Masked Royal is a card of which only 100 were ever made. And yeah, that is a card which is worth so much more than $225. No, that's not what's going on here. This is just a card that was in a set, and it's no rarer than any other full art card that would be in any kind of other set. For us, incidentally, if anybody's forgotten, this is the Pokemon Breeder that was included in Shining Legends. And don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful card, and there's a Miltank on there, and it's a lovely kind of card, but I do think it is fair to say that it's, yeah. It's not a good card, incidentally. Weirdly, it is so different to the Pokemon Breeder that came around in the Pokemon base set. In the base set, it was basically rare candy, whereas this newer version is draw 2 cards and heal 20 from your active. If you have no cards in the deck, you can't play it. That's not the same, ladies and gentlemen. That is not the same. But, maybe there's some weird reason why it ends up being super expensive. No. Because if we go and look at Makari, and again, shout out to Antoine for providing this image, we'll see that it's a 13,000 yen card. There's a few selling a little bit above, but I think at this stage, 13,000 yen is about right. Because it's still from a slightly older set. It's a $97 card. It's not super duper crazy cheap, it is about a $100 card. But that's because it's a full art from a set that came around, this was Sun and Moon 3A, so it's been a little while at this stage. So sure, it's an older card that, it's a full art supporter, the pull rates weren't huge or any of that. This does make a little bit of sense. But there is a huge difference between 13,000 yen and 30,000 yen. And that's what's going on here. This store is buying the card for more than double the current market value of the card. Why would they possibly be doing this? Yeah, for these mystery packs, ladies and gentlemen, or the gacha packs, so to speak. Because essentially, and now this is the kind of thing that happens quite a lot over in Japan, and you'll notice the price there of the gacha pack is 30,000 yen. That is a lot, ladies and gentlemen. That is a lot. 30,000 yen as it stands at the moment is about $225. Oh. We have 30,000 yen. That sounds familiar. That's how much they're buying the card for. See where we're going with this, ladies and gentlemen? Do you see where we're going with this? What they do is they buy the card for well above value so that they can then hype up the price of the card and sell you these super expensive gacha packs, one of the pulls of which is this card. And if we look at the advert and look at the pictures, the cards on that advert, these are all redonkulous cards. These aren't your Pokemon breeder that's being hyped up. No. These, ladies and gentlemen, these are absolutely redonkulous cards. If we take, we're not going to go through all of them in great detail, that would get a little bit boring. But if we take a look at some of the more recent ones, we can see that there is the Full Art Serena there. Now that might be like a $50 card over here, but over in Japan, that is a 35,000 yen card. An actual 35,000 yen card comes in at about 260 bucks. That, ladies and gentlemen, is a card very much worth having. A legitimate 35,000 yen card. We could look at something like the Lugia. That really good, the alternate art Lugia. The one that we all love, the one that we're all desperately hoping to pull from our packs. Now, don't get me wrong, this is a very expensive card if you go and get the English version, but the Japanese version is significantly more expensive. This Lugia, you're talking somewhere in the region of about 44,000 yen. There's a couple in a row here that sold for 44,000 yen. And 44,000 yen, we are talking somewhere in the region of $330. So these gacha packs where you're going to get something really cool in them, you look at this advert and you're hoping for something like Serena, you're hoping for something like Lugia, etc. But then instead you pull Pokemon Breeder. And sure, Pokemon Breeder is, it's not a terrible card by any stretch of the imagination. It's a $100 card-ish. But when you've spent $225 on a gacha pack and you pull a $100 card and a bunch of bulk, that's not really what we're looking for, ladies and gentlemen. That's not what we're really looking for. The good news is, as Antoine said, the pattern is getting pretty obvious here. Because the advert makes no sense. And what they're essentially doing is driving up the price of not good cards to inflate the value so that when you pull them in the gacha pack, you didn't get ripped off. Because look at this. Now, it depends how cynical you really want to be here. If I was a cynical man, I would imagine that before they started buying them from the public for lots of money, I would imagine they would probably go and buy a bunch of these kind of cards from other places, nice and cheaply, or, for less than half of the value, so that they've got them all ready to put in the gacha packs before they start driving up the price and using this as kind of the big pull from said gacha pack. It's not a new thing to do, honestly. This is not unique to the Pokemon trading card game. This is a variation on the kind of thing people have been doing for many, 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 many years. But it is disappointing to see it happening in our hobby. I don't know how many of you out there buy these gacha packs over in Japan. They are everywhere, incidentally. If you look around Amazon Japan, you will find them. If you follow Japanese game stores on Twitter like I do, you will see them coming around. And all I can say to you is, don't do it, ladies and gentlemen. Don't fall for it. But there is a way you can win here. The way you can win is essentially ignore the gacha packs, but when you see stores buying your 13,000 yen for 30,000 yen, just go and sell them. There is an opportunity here for some people with these, mid-level cards to go and make a few quid. Maybe that's the answer. Maybe that's how we all win. But it was something I wanted you guys to be aware of. It also makes an interesting story, but I'm not really a huge fan of interesting stories that lead to people getting ripped off. So if we could leave it, possibly, as, hey, that's an interesting scam they're trying to run. Oh, look, it didn't work. That would be awesome, ladies and gentlemen. That would be awesome. Because I did a thing I went and had a little bit of a look over on Makari myself when this was all going down. And you'll notice that there is one there that sold for 14,500 yen. And there is one that is listed for 8,000 yen. But you'll also notice that there is one that's been listed for 34,000 yen. And this is the real risk when things like this happen. The real risk is that the market gets reset. And Pokemon Breeder actually becomes a 30,000 plus yen card, which it never should have been in the first place, and that's how we all get into a little bit of trouble. Because one thing that Antoine suggested, and I do think this is an extremely fair point, this whole 13,000 yen, that's probably actually in and of itself slightly inflated by stores doing this or something similar in the past. Can't say that they did. Can say that that's the kind of thing that might have happened. Regardless, ladies and gentlemen, I want to know if you've noticed this. I want to know if you've seen this. I want to know anything you want to tell me. So let me know in the comment section, would you? Go nuts. Be nice. And then make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at TheWasi. That's where we talk about Pokemon and card games and Pokemon card games, all kinds of fun things. And please do consider checking out patreon.com/PTCG Radio, where you can support the channel. You can get some bonus podcasts where I answer all of your questions. You can join a Discord and chat with us about Pokemon or anything that takes your fancy. And you can get shout-outs on the channel like the lovely Jelena Renji, who's been one of our supporters for a few months now and seems to be a very, very lovely person indeed. So thank you very much for all the support and for being a very lovely person. But by far the most important thing as always, look after yourselves till next time, would ya? Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.